back to business. So, today, Toon Boom 3, we're talking about the creation of pegged layers. So, in a few days, probably about a week, or a little over a week maybe, we'll be talking about what are called the 12 principles of animation. And the 12 principles of animation, one of them is straight ahead or pose to pose. And what that refers to is your method of animating. So just to take a brief step towards that, when you have straight ahead animation, that's what we had done on most likely the first assignment. You did straight ahead animation, which is to say that you work in a straight ahead fashion towards your end. So you go frame by frame by frame, making each frame in order towards your end goal. Okay, so that would be straight ahead animation. Now the animation method that you will most commonly use in this class, I imagine, unless you really want to do a lot of drawing, is pose-to-pose animation. And what that entails is you create keyframes, or otherwise called key poses, of where you want something to be at a specific time. So on frame 1, I got my bell on my podium. On frame 10, my bell's up here in my hand. And then the good thing about pegs is that as long as I set those two keyframes, it will animate the bell moving up over the 10 frames. So that is from key pose number 1, where it's on the podium, key pose 2, up here in the air. So then the computer will do the other 8 frames in between. So if you note the little picture I have up here, describe the relationship between a peg and a drawing layer. So our drawings are whatever asset that we're working with. So in the terms of a character, your drawing layer would be like their hands, or like whatever you've drawn of them, their face, their eyes, that kind of stuff. And then you control that drawing with a peg, and the peg does the bulk of the animation work. Because the peg is what says it's located here on frame 1, it's located here on frame 10. And then the drawing, nothing changes about the drawing. The drawing stays the same over those 10 frames, but what is changing is the location of the peg, which is in turn controlling where the drawing is at. So that is displayed here. You can see there's the little drop down, and then this drawing layer, which again has the little colored shapes on it. Those are your drawing layers. And then the pegs have the little blue lines. Okay? So your peg should always be in control of a drawing. The simple, most straightforward way to know that you've screwed something up is if these are inverted. You should never see a drawing layer controlling a peg. When you guys get started, that's a really common error. So just, if something's not working right, make sure that you have things controlling in the right order. When you want to add a drawing layer to a peg, like you guys did with the Windows background last week, you guys just drag the layer onto the name of the pegged layer, and then boom, it'll show up underneath it. It is now controlling it. The good news is that you can always condense things in your timeline, the layers panel, just by clicking the little tab to condense it. Alright, so let's go actually do some keyframe peg animation. Yeah. It's in the corner. Alright, so you're going to, oh, I don't have it open. You guys are going to get this Pac-Man stage. All right. Interesting. I don't know why this is in here on a drawing layer when this is an image, but whatever. So in this file, I've just given you just a Pac-Man screenshot so that you guys can draw your own Pac-Man stage. You can make it whatever colors you want, but it's got to follow these shapes. So I'm going to just ignore that for a second, though, and come over here. Make a new drawing layer. And I'll name this Paku Paku, which means to flap one's gums.
Thank you.
Quoting Scott Pilgrim. Alright, so I'm going to start with an ellipse. And I'm going to make it pack yellow. Oh, I didn't mean to leave that in here, but whatever. Okay. So I'm going to make this circle, make it yellow, grab my paint bucket, fill it in, grab my eraser, and I'm going to leave it as it is, solid. I'm going to go 5 frames forward, and I'm going to right click on frame 5 and extend my exposure. So all that's saying is hold this for 5 frames, and you'll see that I have 5 frames of the same thing in my timeline. Then I'm going to grab my selection tool, copy the yellow ellipse, and paste it. Click back in my workspace and paste it. Now, I gotta pause for a second because I want to make sure that you guys gather what it is that I just did. If you notice this red line around my workspace, that means I'm currently active in my drawing space. If I have the red lines around my timeline, it means I'm currently working within my timeline. Now, the reason why I'm drawing such attention to this is that if I just copy and pasted and I'm not paying attention to my order of operations, so selecting it and then clicking back in the workspace after I've moved forward a frame and then pasting it in here, is because if you paste the frame, it will link the frames. And so if I went and edited, in fact, let me show you how that would work. If I did that, select this, copy, and then I paste it in my timeline, I'm pretty sure now if I do this, okay. So, good, I don't need to laboriously explain what was going on to you. Alright, so I just copy pasted it. That used to be a very annoying thing. It will probably still come up to you, but... Alright, so now I got mouth open shape. Let me do that better. That one sucked. There we go. And so I have my open, close. So I go to frame 10, extend my exposure. Now I got 10 frames, 5 and 5 of open, closed. And so I can just hold shift, select all 10 of these frames, and copy, paste. Alright, so I got 40 frames of just open, closed, open, closed. Now, this is only, this is barely 2 seconds worth, or not even 2 seconds worth. 48 would be 2 seconds worth. So let me go, alright, boom. Because I have just over 2 seconds. Alright, so if I actually want to move my Pac-Man now, though, I'm going to go on my timeline and add a peg layer. And since I had my Pac-Man drawing layer selected, you'll see that I have this Paku Paku P. Stands for pegs. This is my Paku Paku peg layer. And again, note our order of operations. Peg is on top. The drawing is underneath. I can close this up and you'll see it's just the peg. Now on my peg layer, there's nothing there. There's no frames, no drawings, no nothing. So now I'm going to set a keyframe. Keyframes are created using F6. Except Not on mine. I have mine bound to something else because that will happen. So I'm gonna create a keyframe. What? Oh, I don't have it bound to something else because it's a new version. Hold on. So it is F6, but my F6 button does play pause on here because I have a different keyboard than you guys. Timeline. New keyframe. Insert keyframe. Yes. Replace. Okay. So now I can make keyframe. And then over the 50 frames, I'm going to make another keyframe. So on frame 50, I've made another keyframe. Again, nothing has changed. So I just have these two keyframes created on frame 1 and frame 50. So on frame 50, I'm going to go to Windows, Toolbars, Advanced Animation. I don't know why they think any of these things are advanced. Like, whatever, though. So we're apparently going to go hyper speed into being advanced animators and grab the translate tool because we want to move this. And I'm going to relocate my little dot onto my Pac-Man to make it easy for me. And then I'm just selected on frame 50 on my keyframe so you can see where I'm at. And I'll just drag this way over here. And I'm going to reset my keyframe. So that way I lock in that information. Now, you'll see it animates my Pac-Man moving across the screen. So let's talk about what's going on the timeline. So on my drawing layer, the only thing that's happening here is I have 5 frames back and forth of the mouth being open, mouth being closed, mouth being open, mouth being closed, mouth being open, mouth being closed. And then on frame 1, I have a starting position set on my peg with a keyframe. And then on my frame 50, I just have the destination, which is way over here. So the drawings handle the drawings, the peg layers handle the animating, the actual motion, the movement. Now this is where we get into what can you and can't you do with pegs. You'll figure out over a period of time, over the period of time in class, like working on stuff, you'll figure out what you can and can't get done with pegs. Things like a character turning their head around, can't do that with a peg. You need to continue to draw each part of their head becoming visible. So that is something you would do with straight ahead animation, drawing each frame. But you can have them move across the screen or move, like, say, their arms, as long as their arms aren't going from being flat with the screen to, like, diagonal with the camera, that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's flip back to the notes. Setting a keyframe. So the default keyboard shortcut is F6. And the note there is keyframes should almost exclusively be created on the peg layer. So peg layers, drawing layers can have keyframes too. You don't want keyframes on your drawing layers. When I see keyframes on your drawing layers, I get worried. It makes me think either you don't know what you're doing, or it pretty much makes me just think you don't know what you're doing. So keep that in mind. Your keyframes stay on your peg layers. Your drawings live in their drawing layers. Okay, okay, so keyframe. Let's actually define a keyframe so that we all know exactly, instead of just using vocabulary we don't know what it means. Keyframes created on a specific point in the timeline, so a specific point in time, which defines an object's size, shape, or location at that moment in time. So is it located over there? Is it rotated this amount? Is it this amount bigger? Is it this amount smaller? Now, with our pegs, Katie does that every time. You do that like half the time that you walk into this classroom. You try to walk to that door. So that the thing about pegs is that when you just define where things need to be in time, the camera does all, or the computer does all the work in between. As that's another vocab word for you. So you have your keyframes, and then you have your in-betweens, which are in between your keyframes. I don't want to blow anyone's mind here. One.
So the in-betweens I see that are like they're following a linear pattern. Can you make them like not linear and make it like speed up or slow down?
Yes. More on that in Toon Boom Notes number 4.
Nice.
So, yes, good question. So, by default, they do have linear acceleration, but you can change how you can add exponential or logarithmic type acceleration. All right, so let's talk about our advanced animation tools, because apparently that's what they're called. I think these are basic animation tools personally, but you know, I don't make Toon Boom. So, first thing first, the top thing, the golden guy. So the golden guy is your toggle animate mode. So you can use the tools, the animation tools, to do things without setting keyframes. Like if you just want to move something, and you want it to affect all of the drawings, like at all points in time, you would turn off animate mode because you're making a like discrete, I want this to happen for everything type change. When you have animate mode on, it's assuming that you want to do it only at that point in time. So 99 times out of 100, you'll probably just have golden guy on and not worry about turning him off. You'll just have golden guy on. So make sure that golden guy is toggled on, and that means your animate tools work only in the specific point in time. Ergo, you're making keyframe changes. You're making changes that will be saved into a keyframe. When off, movements made with the transform tool are considered permanent changes and not for a specific frame in time. There we go. So the transform tool, this is your, it does everything, honestly, which is why I hate it so much. Because it does, you can move things, you can rotate things, you can resize things, all with the same tool. I think that's very messy. I encourage you to use the other advanced animation tools only because you have less propensity to accidentally do something you didn't mean to do. It is a powerful tool. Like, obviously, I'm pointing out it does everything, so it is a powerful tool, but I would caution you against using it so you don't make any mistakes. Allows you to control the location, size, and rotation of the drawing. When animated is on, these changes are stored as keyframes. Now, the 3 tools that my returning champions from Maya will be very comfortable with. We have the motion tool. So that's your move tool. For moving objects, this time only in the XY direction. There is a way to move things in the Z direction. That will be coming later. So you can actually animate your drawing, your 2-dimensional drawings in all 3 dimensions. You can move the drawing farther away from the camera and closer to the camera, and that will affect certain things.
Does that do the same thing as the scale tool would?
As the what?
Wouldn't it just like scale it?
Yeah, yes and no. It doesn't actually change the size of it, but it changes its size relative to other things in the view of the camera. Like bigger things, or closer things appear bigger, farther away things look smaller. Like that kind of thing. So you can create parallax. Rotation tool allows you to reset the pivot point for your model. More on that later. And you can rotate your drawings. Pretty straightforward. The scale tool. make the drawing bigger, make the drawing smaller. So, they do exactly what they say. Now, up here you'll see advanced animation tools. Everyone's going to need to turn these on. First things first, when you guys get into Toon Boom next time, make sure you activate your advanced animation tools, because again, we are advanced animators, even though you guys have been in this program for a week, I guess. So,
Animating is advanced.
yes. Well, I mean, you guys can do more than the random plebs out there on the quad, so you guys are advanced by their standards. Is there anything else? Oh, the control path. Okay, so one final thing to talk about for today. You can see the path that your peg will follow, or your drawing will follow, by turning on the control path. View, show, control. So, if I go view, show, control, what do you know? You can see, because I'm selected on my Paku Paku peg, you can see the path that my Paku Paku man will be following over my 50 frames. And you can see each one of these marks will delineate where the center point, so like the blue dot is, which I've set to the center of my Pac-Man. You'll see where it's at. To Juan's question earlier, so these will update if you change your acceleration factor. If I make it more exponential, there we go. You can see that there's a lot more frames over here, and then it starts spreading out, which means that the more distance over time something is spread, the faster it is moving on the screen. So it's really slow over here because the frames are very close to each other, and then it starts picking up speed. We'll be talking about the ease patterns and stuff on our next set of notes. That was just to show you how that will affect the control. All right, Lexus, you gotta. So let me flip back to the notes real quick. I'm gonna leave this up for a second, and then I'm gonna show you guys what I want you to do for the first, for the first part. So the document I've given you. Let me close it and reopen it. Or will be giving you. I'll go upload it in a second. You get this beautiful Pac-Man layout. Mike, paper over here. You need paper, right? Yeah, I was gonna say, I just heard a beep. Thank you. Ugly side down. Alright, so I've given you this Pac-Man layout. Your first goal for today is to make and draw your own Pac-Man stage. So whatever colors you want to use. So if you want to get super aesthetic, there's accidentally I left somebody else's file and colors in here. So there's a gradient colors. You don't have to use that. So let's go. Oh, not a new palette. Whoops. So I'll make a new color. I do not want it to be a gradient. Go to hue. Alright, so I'll start this lavender color. And I'm going to use the pencil tool. And I'm going to draw this straight line. And then this straight line. Oops. You hold shift to make it straight. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Raise up.
Okay. Alright, so I got this. I'm gonna select all of this. I'm gonna go make the size of this bigger. Alright.
Mr. Meyer, are we designing our own, or are we just?
You have to follow the walls that are already there.
Oh, we do.
But you can make it whatever color you want. And you can add whatever. We are gonna do a competition for the best looking Pac-Man stage. So if you wanna blow people away with your creativity, go for it.
But the only difference will be colors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can put things in the background. Like if Matt back here wanted to load in a picture of Cole into the into his background, he could. Yeah. So once you have your stage created, let me do this, and I'm just gonna do part of it just because I don't need to waste your guys' time doing the whole assignment. The server just crashed, as you can see, obviously. I'm not sure what you guys were doing on it, but you killed it. All right. Whoops. All right, and now let me go. All right, so I got half the stage done. Okay, so I got this stage. Then I'm gonna need to make a Pac-Man. So I'll do my Paku Paku again. And this is going to be for your Pac-Man. So if you want to do Ms. Pac-Man, you want to do something that is your Pac-Man that has some kind of discernible chomping motion. If you want it, like, it could be a I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but if you want to do like a little puppy head going like this, that's fine, whatever. But you need to have two distinct sets of frames in your cycle. So 5 frames of mouth closed. So in my case, I'm just gonna make my pack yellow. I'm gonna make a circle in here. And let me. Alright, cool. I'll fill it in with my yellow. Again, I'm gonna. Oh, I better go extend my exposure for my stage real quick. So again, if you want something to hold for a certain period of time, you want to extend its exposure, you just select that frame and right-click in it, extend exposure. So for this one, I'm just going to extend it out to frame 5. I'm going to take my select tool, grab it, copy, go to frame 6 and paste. Take my eraser, wide open mouth. In fact, hold on.
It's a banana that was bent weirdly.
I've given him teeth.
Thank you. Laughing, crying emoji. Come on. Thank you, Mr. Meyer.
How do I do this? I haven't.
It's just an arc.
Like this? Good enough.
He's in pain.
Alright, so I got this. And then I'm gonna just copy and paste my 10 frame cycle over and over and over again. Alright. Alright, so this is what we got so far. In fact, let me turn the background off. Alright, and then I'm going to throw this into a peg and my... okay. Whoops. Wrong tool. So I'm going to take my peg. Sorry, I got distracted and looking at my calendar invite. I forgot I had something going on today. I'm just going to move the center of my peg onto the center of my Pac-Man. And then I'm going to set my first keyframe. But I'm going to have... is this where he starts, or does he come off the side?
He starts
Underneath the thing?
yeah.
Alright, so down here. Alright, cool. So I'll set my first keyframe there. And, well, I guess I'll have to leave the Pac-Man background up just to help me for now. And then, what you're going to do is, as best you can, because Pac-Man does have linear speed throughout when you're actually playing the game. Every 5 or 10 frames or whatever you come to choose as your speed, let's say 10 frames for me. So on frame 10, this is going to be here. And then I'm keyframing that. And I'm also going to now keyframe on my rotate. They are separate keyframes. So let me undo setting my keyframe. See how there's nothing under rotation here? No keyframe set until, again, I'm on my rotate tool. I'll set my keyframe. Because on my next frame, when I'm going this direction, he now needs to be rotated 90 degrees. And also, on frame 20, whoops, needs to be here. And then again, I'm going to set a rotate keyframe. Now the reason why I'm setting a keyframe here is so that it's not spinning in the air between here and here, because on frame 21, now I'm going this direction. Oh, my rotation needs to be 180. Oops. There we go. Now, so this is the part that we are going to talk about on the Toon Boom Notes number 4, because otherwise you're going to end up with Pac-Man Tokyo Drift. So that is supposed to happen. I know that's happening. I know you don't like it, but we'll work through it in the next set of notes. So for the first part, you want to just establish the path that your Pac-Man's going to follow, and then we'll fix it and finish it with the Toon Boom Notes number 4. So you're making your Pac-Man stage. If it's just blue lines, just like this one, or black lines, I don't really care. But you got to make one just because I want you to do more practice with the drawing tools. It really is that simple. I'm not trying to be a dick about it. It's just to make you to practice more with the drawing tools. And then once you have a stage made, you will want to animate your Pac-Man moving through it. Alright. And do it for up to 100 frames. How far do I have this? I have this extended out to like 300 something. So yeah, you need to do 100 frames of your Pac-Man moving, which will break down to 5 seconds. Right? About. A little less than 5 seconds. 4 seconds? Yeah, 4 seconds would be 96, right? Yeah. We might need to do longer than that. Yeah, well, you might need to do, yeah, we'll have to kick it up a notch to 240 frames. That's 10 seconds of animation. So, in fact, before I give you this file, I will make sure that, okay, so this file is set to 240 frames. Oh, it's set to 239 frames. Alright. So yeah, anyway, do not need to be recording this anymore.